Hi, and welcome back to Channel Zero X. I'm Michael Landon, and this is Caroline.
Hi, everybody. It's Saturday morning here in the UK. I hope you're all having a good Saturday or late Friday, wherever you are.
And I hope that you're not listening to anything else and checking us out. Now, let's have a look. We've got
Anything else?
my attention has been drawn by Sashi on Twitter to the New York Times. A comic book publisher creates its own origin story.
Thank you for that, Sashi. It's always interesting to read things that are new, and this is very new to me, some of the information in this and the people concerned. This is just an
So,
initial reaction video because I don't know the
so,
people concerned. I haven't come into contact
so
with any of them before.
Yeah, well, so this article is topped off with this picture of three guys sat looking quite pleased with themselves. It's almost like a uniform of these grey shirts and black jeans. So maybe this is going to be the new uniform for the future of comics. If this is anything to go by, this is the future of comics. It is being spearheaded by Axel Alonso. For those of you who don't know, was the chief exec for some time of Marvel before they removed him, quite possibly because he was considered a bit of a contagion for having essentially spearheaded the whole SJW movement within Marvel Comics offices,
I've never
which
heard
led
of
to
this
the
guy. He was the
yeah.
inceptor of it, wasn't he?
Yeah, he brought on Helerantos and the whole fallout with the Milkshake Gate. I'm not
Oh, yeah, I
holding
remember
not
that.
holding him personally responsible for Milkshake Gate, just for the fact that Marvel did a real about turn in terms of how they were trying to market their characters, what characters they were going to be focusing on, and also replacing much beloved characters with knockoffs, which were meant to appeal to a smaller demographic, people who wanted to see every type of representation without any regard to actually how the stories would pan out.
I'll have to research this. Excuse me. There's also somebody called John Miller and Bill Gemas,
Yeah,
who are
so
the executive team of artists, writers, and artisans, which hope to change. And this is what the good thing, I think. Talking further down, it depends how it goes. Hope to change the way that the comic books business works.
so this article by George Jean Custines, dated 20th of March 2019, American Ronin, about highly trained cooperative operatives, Fight Girls, about warriors vying to be queen of the galaxy, and Bad Mother, about a parent searching for her missing daughter. These are some of the stories that are coming from a new comics publisher, artists, writers, and artisans. One that is posing the question, what stories could we develop if we begin with a blank slate?
Right, and then to go on, it says, as most people know in comic books, there are two main publishing models. One emphasises flagship characters like Batman and Spider-Man, whose success largely benefits their companies DC and Marvel Comics. The other is creator-focused, where hits like The Walking Dead by Robert Kirkman, published by Image, I've never seen that either, can mean a financial windfall for its creators. AWA is aiming for something between the two. It will have interconnected superhero comics like DC and Marvel, as well as standalone series like Image. And this is the interesting thing to me, and all of its creators will have a financial stake.
Now, just before we go on, in terms of what they're proposing so far, it doesn't sound like they've really tried to put into place anything that hasn't already been done before. In terms of creators still retaining ownership of their properties, regardless of what kind of other media they're spun out into, this is something that quite a lot of creators have managed to do
But
for themselves already.
they do speak to that further down, though.
Yeah.
They say it's an approach reminiscent of old Hollywood. The model here really is the old United Artists model, where people who are actually doing the creative, I think there's a word missing there, work, and thinking, have ownership, control, and decision-making power over the work they're doing. And this is coming from Bill Gemas, who's former chief operating officer and publisher at Marvel, and who's now chief exec and publisher of AWA. So there we have it being said. And I know we discussed this, and I read
Yeah.
this article initially and said, well, maybe that's a good thing. It's bringing out more models that work that way. And then you had something to say to me
Yeah,
about it.
I would suggest that there is something suspiciously. After all, the New York Times is really hostile to anything like Comicscape movement, anything that's alternative to the big drive at the moment to have inclusion, representation, diversity, all of these things which are essentially, they all sound good on the tin, written on the tin, but in practice what they really mean is driving home a political advantage of anybody who actually doesn't want to toe that line, because they believe that simply by adhering to these tenets, everybody will just lap these up. All of the right-thinking people on the right side of history, and anybody who has any kind of problem with older stories, older characters being treated with their due respect, that's out the window. In come these new characters, these new storylines, and these new agendas, and anybody who doesn't love these to a T, they're out of the picture.
Yeah, well, this is interesting because we discussed it, didn't we, when you showed me it this morning. And initially, and still in a way, I want to keep an open mind over it, because you have been my eyes and ears, certainly before last February, I'd say, in what was changing in the comic book industry, due to the fact that I have commitments outside creative writing. I know you do too, but mine are quite extensive. And so initially I thought, well, if it is going to be inclusive of all models, but I think yeah, obviously the New York Times, but I think your real unease coming from here is Axel Alonso, isn't it? Former editor-in-chief at Marvel.
Axel Alonso seems to me to be pretty much the one who really embraced third wave feminism, this movement where women seem to feel that they have been dealt a bad hand in life throughout history. They may well have done throughout history, but where we stand now is, I believe, we all stand together. We are no longer vying for a piece of the pie as a group. I don't think society can stand that way, where any one particular set of identities think they should be in a reparation type of situation where everybody else owes them favorable circumstances. This is a world, I believe, which can only stand on merit, on people doing their own thing, being able to develop their own ideas and their own profit margins, which have nothing to do with having been beneficiaries of favorable or favoritism. These things are not the American way, and they're not really the Western way or any way.
Well, I think what we're talking about is having to and I wonder if some of this is about this. It's about developing an infrastructure where true meritocracy can operate, and you can also have choice. You know, you can have all these books as well as the old favourites and ones that sit in the new with new genre, new characters.
From the sound of this lineup of creations, they're definitely still going for this phantom market.
Have you seen that? Because I mean, as I say, this is new to me. I need to do some research.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, it says Jonathan F. Miller as chairman. He's going to be chairman of this. Miller helped broker a deal in 2017 between comic book writer Mark Miller and the streaming service Netflix, which brought his library of characters to development to the streaming service.
Yeah.
And Gemas and Alonso indicate the first of AWA's titles will arrive sometime this fall.
Can I just quickly mention Mark Miller here? So Mark Miller, he probably has had more stuff out there as perhaps TV shows, certainly movies, maybe than any other creator outside of the Marvel stable. If you exclude Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, Mark Miller has been very prolific in terms of producing comics content that have been spun out into other media, especially movies. These comics and these movies are all generally pretty mediocre, but what he's probably best known for is having written, I believe, the Civil War storyline, which then Marvel adapted for Marvel, which were adapted into the movies for Captain America's Civil War. So he's got quite the pedigree, but this new kind of momentum doesn't seem to be taking forward anything that even he developed. There's quite specifically I think there's quite specifically an intersectional feminist agenda, which I don't think Axel Alonso and company would have been turning their backs on in any way since he left Marvel.
Well, they go on to say, I mean, Alonso goes on to say during a recent conference call interview with Gemas that what we're offering creators is an opportunity to bet on themselves without putting it all on the line. And the stable of writers and artists include both veterans and newcomers. And he's saying they'll be paid to produce the work as well as own their stories and characters a percentage of the company, or both? Now that, interestingly enough, then underneath there's a shot of American Ronin saying business is war. We've got a shot of Bad Mother with a shotgun in a kitchen, I think.
Yeah.
They're searching for a
Quite a
missing daughter.
photoreal picture of a kind of a housewife standing in a kitchen with a smoking...
Breaking Bad.
Yes, smoking shotgun.
Well, that suggests that it may
rifle.
have a Breaking Bad element to it, and
Yeah.
I am a fan of Breaking Bad, but looking at the time, I think, we'll perhaps leave it there for now. There is more information in this article to look at later, but we may return to that later on. Yeah, there's quite a bit more to talk about AWA and its titles. So for now, wishing you a very happy Friday evening, early Saturday morning or Saturday, wherever you are, and stay safe.
And if you've heard of AWA, please get back to us. Let us know in the comments, what do you think? Are we a little off the mark in terms of being cynical about this, or could this be a good deal?
Sashi's obviously put it out there for discussion. There's a lot there are people in this that I haven't heard
Maybe
of.
this is a great deal for creators, but I don't get this. I get the sense there's purity testing involved here, and that a lot of creators are going to find themselves, quite overlooked simply because they just want to tell great stories that are based in action, character development, and not about a political agenda. But again, let us know.
Yeah, well, as I say, there's something to be done here with research, because anything that has a potential to be positive, I think, in this industry as it's declining is a good thing. But as you say, I think there's a great deal more delving to be done, certainly by me.
We'll be keeping an eye on this, but let us know if you want to hear more.
Subscribe, like, and do tell us what you think. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.